This lady is a member of the Native American tribe, the Catawba. The Catawba were dispersed during the time in which there was an English engagement during the Seminole Warfare. The Catawba, who were originally the Yamasees, would eventually join the ranks of the Seminole Indians. The following is a document from the Peabody Library at Harvard University, and it gives a description of how many saw the American native during the earlier times during the settlement of America. This document is from the Peabody Museum of Harvard University. It was written in 1848 by Constantine Rafinesky to a J.H. McCullough. This is the first letter of a series of 4. It follows: You appear desirous to learn something more of my researches on the ancient and modern history of North and South America. I feel willing and happy to be able to answer your inquiries, and even to suggest perhaps some new facts. The continent of America has ever been the field of philosophical delusions, as Africa of fables and monsters, and Asia of religious creeds. All the various systems and theories of monks and philosophers on the origin, climate, and inhabitants of America have been repeatedly destroyed by fact, and yet they find to this day many believers. To this day they speak and write of the red men of America, while there is not a red man, nor never was, in this continent. To this day do they attempt to separate the American languages from all others, while their roots and structures are exactly like many in the eastern continent. When we are led by systems or do not investigate and compare subjects in all their bearing, we are apt to fall into these delusive mistakes. But whosoever will take the trouble, as I've done, to compare the features, languages, religion, customs of all nations of the 5 parts of this world, Asia, Europe, Africa, Polynesia, and America, we will find, as I've found, that mankind is unity with many deviations of features, complexions, languages, religions, governments, civilizations, all derived from single primitive types of those effects and a common central focus. Dr. Rafinescu go on to say, the Native American Negroes, or Black Indians, have been seen in Brazil, Guyana, Caracas, Popayan, Chocho, North California, and some of them, each at the auroras of Caracas, were black, but with fine features and long hair like the Jolops and Galas of Africa. Others in New California, latitude 32, called Estestros, or like the Hottentots or Tambukis, and many other Negridian tribes, not black but dark brown, yet complete Negroes with large thick lips, broad flat nose, and with hair crisped or curly. The Negro features belong to the form of the head rather than of the color, since there are in Africa, Asia, and Polynesia black, brown, yellow, olive, coppery, and even white Negroes. The American Negroes of Quaranca in Chocho, the great level plain 900 miles long, 90 miles wide, separating the Andes of South America from the mountains of Panama, were black and with woolly hair in 1506. They are mentioned by D'Angeria and all the early accurate writers. The last 2 travelers who have seen these Negroes are Stevenson, 20 years travel in South America, and he published his book in London in 1825, and Molian, who traveled in Colombia, who published his book in Paris in 1824. Stevenson says that the Indians of Manabai, comprising the districts of Amaratas and Rio Verde and Acacamas on the seashore or Popayan, are all Zambos and produced by a ship full of Negroes who came into the country before the Spaniards killed the former inhabitants, kept the women, and formed a mixed race. They are tall of blackish color, with soft curly hair, large eyes, flat noses, thick lips, while the true Zambos, or modern offspring of Indians and Negroes, are of a deep copper color, with thick hair, not curled, small eyes, sharp noses, and small lips. Thus the great divisions of mankind in regard to their complexion were found in America previous to the modern colonialization. These three races have erroneously been called white, red, and black, to which I have proposed to substitute the term of pale, tawny, and dark, which describe them completely. Although it is not the color, but rather the features which distinguish them, the geographical corresponding appellations of Caucasian, Himalayan, and Negridian races may be equally objectionable, as well as the traditional names of Japhetian, Semitic, and Ammonian races, because they are based upon theoretical origins. Whatever be their names, although once very distinct and probably the three primitive deviations of mankind, they have since, like their primitive languages, become so much entangled, intermixed, and changed, so as to have assumed many other shades: white, whitish, rose, ruddy, tawny, brown, brownish, blackish, black, ebony, and etc. A similar confusion and intermixture has occurred with language, which have split from primitive stock into mother tongue, dead Holy Written, and spoken languages, dialects, and subdialects. Thus, in this course of time, producing all the immense varieties of speech that have existed, or do yet exist, all of which can, however, be traced to each other by comparative philosophy, deeply searched in spite of theories and the apparent confusion of diversity and difficulty, written in May of 1828 by Konstantin Rafinesky. In 1790, the enumerators were told to tell race by skin complexion, as the record keepers assumed that the indigenous people of North America had all died or gone west. There had to be a category for these people that were left over. The category of convenience was free mulatto. Slightly more careful record keeping used the alternative term free persons of color when classifying. As land on the eastern shores were taken from the indigenous people of North America, the statute of free persons of color changed to colored in the 1800s. Also, in those census records, census takers were told to list Mexicans or Hispanics as white. Through racism and land theft, the darker-skinned people were presumed to be enslaved African. Looking at the historical records of Europeans and their descriptions unveiled the fraud of this perception. In 1619, John Brown, the first English explorer, described the color of the people. When he landed on the eastern shore of America in Jamestown, Virginia, he described Powhatan, the Algonquin chief he had encountered, to look more like a devil, he states, with some 200 or more men as black as himself. In the books, Letters, and Notes on the North American Indigenous People of North America, written in 1841 by author George Catlin, a noted ethnographer, describes American Indigenous People of North America as: all primitive tribes known in America are dark copper-colored with jet black hair, while most possess curls in the extreme, which today is considered nappy hair, and every level of wavy hair in between. The texture of the hair is generally fine, soft or silk, or coarse and harsh. Catlin also noted the hair of the men falling down to the hams and sometimes to the ground is divided into plaits or slabs 2 inches wide and filled with a profusion of glue and earth, which becomes very hard and remains unchanged from year to year. Today, this form of hair is called locks. You can obtain a more legible copy of these documents by going to my channel page, J.C. Smith Jr., and clicking on Ancient Black Americans.